Glenrothes, the second one and the third one, these ones were just released in Florida as well. So again, you guys are the exclusive, which is really cool. So you guys can thank Barry and Sean. They really hooked you up because you guys are one of the first ones to taste it. So correct? It just came? Correct. Yep. And if you guys look for it on the shelf, it won't be just solo in the stouty bottle. It'll be surrounded by a bright colored box. So whatever color the label is, it'll be in the box. The bourbon cask is in a cardboard color box. Which is your typical brown cardboard. So just a heads up, that's what the box looks like. Tells you a little bit more
there's actually a description and tasting notes on the side of these
tasting notes is really cool, right on the side, and then the description of Glenrothes on the pack.
Can we back up just a hair and just revisit first the grouse in both of them, and now the Glenrothes regionally.
Sure, no
So
problem.
Let's go.
Yep.
Bring that into the conversation.
So, I don't know how you know this, but we took 3 space sides, we put them together, and this is a space side. So, same region. So let's talk about the regions of Scotland, right? So when you guys are drinking Scotch, each region has its very distinctive flavor, tasting notes, things like that, right?
Yeah.
You're talking?
You want to sit in here? There's a seat right over here.
Yeah, you're kind of out there.
Don't be out there. Come in here. Don't be out there. Come in.
Coming from the cold. Word.
Alright.
Everybody stop and watch.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody stop and watch. You're not wearing your name tag. I mean, come on.
Breaking the rules.
This is
So
Sam.
now you have to stand up and introduce yourself.
Sam. Everybody meet Sam.
Hi, Sam.
Hi, Sam.
Yeah, make no mistake, this is actually an AA meeting.
That's awesome.
That's what we tricked her into coming.
We should get in the nose on that bourbon. It's weird.
So this is, I haven't even,
All
this
right,
is the
so
bourbon, right?
I
The
don't know
second.
how many of you have heard of the Glenrothes, but we don't actually
No,
put a
it was the
lot
last one. It was
of
the white
marketing
one.
dollars behind
I
the Glenrothes.
organized
I
mine.
think once you
I
guys
don't know
taste
what
this
yours
lineup tonight,
The light is
this
the
is
light
our
is this-
hidden
yeah,
gem in our
this is the
portfolio.
bourbon, right?
A lot of people chase the Macallan. Don't get me wrong; they chase the Highland Park. That's awesome. I think in our portfolio, once you taste through all the different Glenrothes, we have some ones that we actually discontinued, but you guys are going to be really impressed tonight. So I hope you enjoy it. So really cool thing about the Glenrothes is it's a little bit of an older distillery, 1879, and only 3% go into the single malts. Anything that we age, 3% of those aging casks go into single malt releases. The rest get thrown into blends all over Scotland. So this is really cool because we're actually taking a very small amount and putting it into single malt releases. So there's actually like a major cult following behind the Glenrothes. If you guys go on Instagram, Twitter, follow that hashtag. There's people that collect lots of different ones. We used to release some vintages out there. You guys might see like the 1998, the 2001, the 2004 sherry cask, vintage cask, peated cask, bourbon cask, select reserve cask. There's a ton of different versions of the Glenrothes. However, we're totally going through a revamp, and the revamp will be this actually. So the only one of those casks I just named that we're keeping is actually the bourbon cask. Everything else we're turning into age statement, which is great. A lot of whiskey distilleries are going away from age statement. We're actually a little bit different. We're going to add some age statements in there. So we're going to start with our 12, and then we're finishing with the Whiskey Maker's Cut. The 2 that are not on the table that we're going to be releasing are an 18-year-old and a 25-year-old. We might be getting a 40, right? Yep. But right now in the state of Florida, you're going to see just one more added to this collection, and that'll be the 18-year-old. So, so to get to the bourbon cask, we age this exclusively in a used bourbon cask. Now, if you guys look at the color, it should tell you that this is definitely coming from a bourbon cask, just because how light it is. Even Hugh referenced the Mac 15, that uses predominantly American oak as well. So when you age whiskey in American oak, you're going to pull out lighter colors. You're going to get bourbon notes, right? You're going to get that vanilla, maybe the butterscotch, the honey, maybe some caramel, things like that. So that's what you guys are going to taste in the Glenrothes bourbon cask.
How long has this been aged for?
No age statement, so they do not. When we have, and that's correct. My answer from the distillery is at least 3 years. So
That's part of the reason why they're going at age statements, because so many people ask that question and can't really answer it proprietary to that. So now
Very.
we're putting age statements on there. So
Try that and think of a seed. Identify a seed. I get like One predominant
So the
seed.
reason why the American oak is lighter is because European oak is more porous, the wood.
Soaks
So
it in.
the alcohol actually soaks into that wood and draws out more of the color than American oak, because American oak is more dense,
really
so it
interesting.
doesn't go in.
You guys get it
The
from
seed. I've never
Kentucky or
tasted this in a
something like
whiskey.
that, or where's the
I know this is-
most
We
of
do
the
have some-
coming from?
It's all
We do,
personal.
yeah, you're talking to our American
Yeah.
oak? Yep, so we do Heaven Hill and a little bit of Suntory.
cool.
Yep.
Which is very similar. I got
Yeah.
sesame
It
seeds.
is.
Like
Sesame
toasted
seeds.
sesame seeds.
Most of our
But
European
usually a
oak
pumpkin
is
seed's
made
toasted too, so
Yeah.
that same
Red
element.
oak, so it could be a little bit.
a little bit of
Yeah,
the brown sugar.
Most of it.
yeah. I got like popcorn.
With the steering wheel on the other side.
Really?
And the road
I didn't get a lot of
like
caramel. Minimal, very minimal. She was saying caramel. I didn't get like caramel. That's interesting.
this. I know.
The finish
So
on that. The
Speyside
finish on
whiskey
that's
will
really good.
have lighter notes.
These all space sides.
Either, yes, this is all space
These are-
yes. Lighter notes, I don't know, and maybe you guys can educate me, I don't know
That's why I
everything
get the
about whiskey,
glass.
but I can't think of a Speyside whiskey that has an exclusive peated whiskey. Most peated whiskeys come from the island regions, and we're going to taste one tonight, but each region has a very distinctive taste. So you have the Highlands, you have the Lowlands, you have Speyside, you have Island region, and then you have Campbelltown. So those would be the regions of Scotland. So if you guys like a particular whiskey, you like that style, go search out that whiskey from that region and just try different ones. And that's how you develop your palate. That's how you get that. You know, someone told me one time, man, don't you taste leather? And I was like, I really don't taste leather. And that's because maybe my palate's not that advanced. But the more you taste whiskey, in small amounts, the more you taste whiskey, the better your palate becomes.
The more I don't go to work the next day. Are you kidding me?
So some of, you know, when I do these tastings, some people are like, I really don't get raisin, Aaron. I don't get it. And that's just because you're just not there yet. So just, you know, add some water to it. Like Barry said, you know, just play around with your whiskey a little bit. And, but honestly, you do have to drink different ones to maybe get that raisin that people talk about.
And it also could be, it's also your experience. And if you've never
Right.
been around leather, you may not
True.
recognize
Or
this
tobacco,
smell.
right? I hear that and I'm like,
What about my question?
Hold on.
but you're right. I mean,
You don't eat a lot of raisins. You know, I don't think.
well, most people I think should have some raisins in their
What do you
lifetime
reckon,
as a child.
What? Which
But
which one?
example,
I'm on the
we
12
see
here.
in one of our whiskeys,
I'm on the 12.
and one of
The
our
nose on
whiskeys,
the 12 is killing
one
me.
of
I
the
love it.
tasting notes is heather, and I'm like, I don't know what heather tastes like. I'm not from Scotland. I don't know, but they say that the heather as the moss.
It's
not
been
the
a while.
person.
Heather's on the song.
Heather,
Someone's paid a lot of money to make it sound.
yeah, and a part of that is a little bit of marketing, where you know you have to come up with these different notes, right? To be different. But heather to me is honey. So when you guys hear heather, think honey. So that's your fun fact of the day. Okay, whiskey number 2. So this is our. That was a good test, guys. It was awesome.
I'm sorry.
So this is our,
I was showing people.
all-
People are asking.
It is. So the Glenrothes 12 year. This is fantastic. Again, you guys are one of the first people to try it in the state
So
of Florida,
good,
which is awesome. Very happy about that. For this one, we use American. I should just say it's sherry oak cask. So when you see that sherry oak cask, that means we use a little bit of American and a little bit of European oak that have previously held sherry before. We dump that sherry and then we fill it with our distillate.
So fruity.
So this is a 12 year, and as you guys should know, anytime you see an age statement on a bottle of whiskey, that means it's the youngest whiskey from that blend of casks. So there could be, 14, 15. They don't tell us that, so I don't know what the oldest whiskey is in that age statement, but I know the youngest is 12 for sure. At least 12. At least 12 for sure. So if you guys have whiskey left, maybe going back and forth between the two. If you guys can taste the difference between the American oak influence, right, from that bourbon cask, and then that sherry oak influence from that second one.
A lot of development going on.
Yeah, this is a good one. I think this one's going to do really well for us, for sure.
It's viscous. It's really good. It's like a
Wait till you get to number 3. This is gonna be my favorite.
it's very the second one. Dude, it's golden raisins all day long.
Was
Yeah.
the one of the reds?
I got
But it's also
golden
plain
raisins, I
brown.
got leather. No.
A little plum, maybe?
Of course.
So it's got a plain brown
Yes.
flavor.
That's my only thing.
The color?
The red
Well, no, the
we
label,
got
the
down.
label's different, smaller. It's like I wish it was a uniform label.
So this was when we had a peanut cask, a sherry cask, and the labels all looked very similar. So I can imagine that the bourbon cask label is gonna match this once we get the new bottle. So you understand that? Yeah. Because we're
Something
all
acidic.
trying to look the same on the
Try
shelf.
to
Yeah.
pull out the acidic.
That's good. I'm glad you understand.
Yeah, got it.
Cool.
Sorry. Nailed it.
Cool. All right, and then the third one from the Glenrothes.
So
This is
fast.
called Whiskey Maker's Cut. So our whiskey maker decided to not necessarily make it cask strength, but he was playing with. I didn't want to go to 40 ABV. I didn't want to go to 42. He wanted something a little bit under cask strength. So he decided to put his own little take on a random proof that he wanted to do. A little bit more complexity on this, a little bit more heat. So that's why it's called Whiskey Maker's Cut, because he said, all right, I don't have to stick to my 40 ABV. I'm going to make it. So this is 48.8, I think. Yes, 48. I will.
That is a good amber golden amber.
So this is 48.8. So Sean, my good friend, is hinting at why I need to talk about chill filtered and non-chill filtered whiskey. So let's see. Does
Break it
anybody,
down.
Does anybody
Yeah, nothing
know?
like
It's a molecular.
So does anybody know? Go ahead. Let's go. You don't have a name tag on.
It's Roosh.
Harold Rouse.
Hey, Roosh.
Roush.
That's a very
Wow.
fast car.
But chill filtering is simply they cool it down to solidify the lipids, the fatty acids
Oh,
and
shit, that's good.
and the alcohol, and then they filter those out so that you get a more uniform color on the shelf. It's filtering
When
out a
you
lot of taste
cool it down, like
elements.
when you put it on ice.
Yeah, when correct.
Non-chill
avoid the
filtered
cloudiness.
spirits will turn cloudy. Because like when you take something fatty and you cool it down, the lipids harden.
Congeals.
Yeah, congeals.
Yes,
Well,
thank
I
you.
mean, the big
genitals.
argument for or against it is, yeah, it's more appealing in the glass and all that kind of stuff.
But you lose.
You know, why do you eat a ribeye? You eat a ribeye for the fat and the flavor. Well, if you're stripping that out to make it more appealing, you're actually robbing character
Correct.
out of the whiskey as
Yep.
well.
They call it the Scotch mist.
Like taking all the fat and flavor out of a ribeye. Like,
You're eating strip steak at
Yeah,
that point.
exactly.
yeah.
Stripped
You
down.
can actually
ribeye.
see it percolating in the glass when it's non-chill filtered. You'll see it kind of, it's not bubbling, but it's active.
You almost see a
Right.
little cloud.
Yes,
And
cloudy. If you add water to it or ice, and honestly, it was done.
46%
Yes.
is the magic number for that.
Correct.
Above 46%,
Yep.
you no longer have to chill filter.
Correct. And if you guys want to know if your whiskey is chill filtered or non-chill filtered, for the most part, I don't know if it's a law or not. Maybe you guys can educate me. It has to be on the bottle in order for it to be chill filtered or non-chill filtered has to be on the bottle. So one of our, I'm sorry to say this, but one of our whiskeys from Highland Park that is discontinued is non-chill filtered, and that was Dark Origin. So if you guys love the Highland Park line,
That's a killer one.
oh man, that's killer. And I totally blame that on non-chill filtering, 100%. So I chase non-chill filtered whiskey. I love tasting it. I really get the viscosity and the oils in my mouth, and that's what I love about whiskey, especially with non-chill filtered whiskey. So, but thank you, Roosh. Appreciate that.
Wow. Say it with us, Aaron. Wow.
So obviously when you were in Scott, you did not go to a lot of races.
Somebody's not there. That's hard.
Her ex-boss used to go to the 500 religiously, and if he heard her say "roosh," I mean,
Fired.
yeah,
That's it.
That's why I left. That's why I left. Yeah.
Couldn't handle the heat.
And we're done.
Shelby shirt, because it's more of a.
I don't think I've actually ever seen a NASCAR race.
What?
Aaron, what's the price?
Like through completion or just at all?
All right,
Ever and,
just say that. So the bourbon cask is $49.99.
That's a great price point.
The 12-year is $51.99, and the whiskey maker is $79.99. So,
What do you guys think about that as a
Well,
new
right where it needs
whiskey?
to be.
Yeah, is that appropriate for
Right where
for
it
the
needs
taste?
to be.
Yeah.
The 12. I like the 12. I like the 12 price point.
Cool.
Also, 51 is a weird. It is. It's a weird spot in the lineup.
We'll look at that.
But do you understand why?
You know,
Tell us.
I have a feeling that will soon be 49.
It is. 51 is a really weird.
So,
When
so
you look at
there,
the
there will be a
Cutoff's
member's
50.
price at $49.99.
But isn't that also
Sign up soon.
It's also part of the point, right?
Right.
Well, it's the second one. It's like putting that off as 50. Yeah, I got it.
It's also like, why do they put speed limits up to say 13 miles an hour in the residential neighborhoods? Why? Because you always remember, like, oh yeah, that's that 13 mile an hour speed zone.
Yeah, no, hey,
You're right. It is. 51 is a goofy price.
Hugh, I had already fixed some of the other ones for you. You just don't know it yet.
So a note on, if you guys like the Glenrothes range,
The
if you
nose
like,
on that
you know,
whiskey
some of the
cup
tasting
sucks.
notes on it.
That's the worst part.
Again,
got
the
one little
ones
nose.
that have been
The 12
discontinued are
has
the
got a
vintages
beautiful
and all the
bouquet.
different
The 12
cast
has
types.
like no character on the nose.
Go seek those out, chase them, see if they're out there, out and about. Both
I'm
you
gonna
and
buy
myself
12,
are
that's
chasing
good.
them because they're
Yeah,
no
I like
longer
the 12.
made, you know? So that's a fun thing about whiskey. Sometimes it's a limited release and you
Super
want to keep
whiskey.
the stuff that is no longer being made, right? So
Cowan Edition 1.
exactly, you
You can
have to
keep it
get
from
a
the store to
one.
my house because it's.
No, but I was hoping you could help me.
I need one.
I need one.
I need one. So yeah, so it's a fun little thing to go chase the whiskey from the Glenrothes that is no longer being
How many
made.
of those
so.
we just
Blew through?
helpless?
No.
No, just.
So,
Oh, this is a great price point. It's great whiskey. Just take it. I feel like some days kicking myself in my own
Yes,
face.
you got that right.
And I had a bottle of
All right, guys. So we're gonna go for
I do.
round
Still have a
three.
Macallan edition too because I've zeroed it twice 2 weeks in a row on
Whoa.
CPA. I got a phone call about that from Dan yet.
So this guy's at his taco shop we're having.